Well, we know the Tampa Bay Rays will be representing the American League in the World Series. We're still not sure who's representing the National League, but we don't have to wait too much longer to find out who that is going to be, as we are joined by Ben Nicholson-Smith and Arden Zwelling. A second Game 7 in as many nights as the NLCS will be decided this evening between the Dodgers and the Braves. And Ben, we'll start with you. We know what the Braves are doing with their starter, and maybe they have the better starter going tonight. But when we get to the bullpens here, and we will get to the bullpens, do you think the Dodgers may have the advantage in that perspective tonight?
I think it's possible, which is kind of crazy to say when you look at a bullpen that doesn't look amazing on paper. But if you look at the starting rotation and the way that a guy like Dustin May might be able to factor in, then you start to see some waves of pitching that the Dodgers can use. And May only threw 55 pitches in his most recent start, so he should be available. Unclear if Clayton Kershaw would be available or if the Dodgers would save him for a potential Game 1 of the World Series. Even you look at the bullpen, I mean, a guy like Kenley Jansen pitched 2 days in a row leading into Game 7, but he only had to throw 6 pitches in Game 6. So you have to imagine he would be available. It would be a stretch. He hasn't pitched 3 in a row, and neither has Blake Treinen at any point this season. But the Dodgers do have some guys that they can go to behind Gonsolin or whomever they choose to start the game.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm quite as confident as Ben, considering how the Dodgers have had to rely on some of those leverage arms just to get to this point. You know, we assume Gonsolin is starting, but Dave Roberts wouldn't confirm that after Game 6, which does hint at the possibility of an unconventional strategy. You know, if he had a certain starter, he would likely name him. So it's possible we could see an opener. It's possible we could see someone on extremely short rest, as Ben alluded to, but I think that none of it is ideal. The Dodgers have had to really rely on their leverage guys just to get the series to this point, and that bill does come due at a certain point, right? Treinen, Pedro Baez, Kenley Jansen, they were all pitching on back-to-back days in Game 6. Baez has actually appeared in 4 of the last 5, and Jansen in 3 of the last 4. And these aren't guys that necessarily have had to be used to this extent recently. So beyond Brusdar Gratterall, it's just sort of unclear to me what type of options Dave Roberts is going to have out of the bullpen. To me, Clayton Kershaw is sort of the nuclear option, asking him to come back on 2 days rest. You know, you are dealing with a veteran guy, a guy who was battling back spasms earlier this week, and someone whose postseason performance obviously tends to be pretty volatile. So there's really no easy decisions here for Dave Roberts.
Yeah, so Dave Roberts has some things to think about with how to start this game from a pitching perspective. But Arden, for Brian Snitker, the decision is pretty easy. Ian Anderson is ready to go. He has been unreal in nearly 16 innings in the postseason. The easy question would be, do you see him continuing his success tonight? But at least for Snitker, he knows he's turning to a young right-hander who has just been phenomenal in the postseason.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because this is a 22-year-old who was at Double-A last year. He made his MLB debut 6 weeks ago. So now he's starting in Game 7, and the Braves don't feel too bad about it. You don't typically see pitchers this young or this inexperienced thrust into positions like this unless there are no options or someone gets hurt. And in a way, someone did, right? Because Cole Hamels was supposed to be a big part of this Atlanta rotation, but missed essentially the entire season with the shoulder injury. So what that speaks to is the fact the Braves have been relying on unexpected contributors for a while now. And that's why they have a lot of confidence in a guy like Anderson. Like, it may only be the 9 big league appearances to this point, but they've all been exceptional, particularly the 3 in the postseason. I think the last time out, he actually showed you some real mettle and some real poise. He admitted he didn't have his best stuff that day. He walked 5. He wasn't locating the way he wanted to, but he still found a way to get through 4 scoreless innings. And that's a real legitimate test against a team like the Dodgers. On a day when you don't have your best stuff, can you still be effective? Can you still get outs? And Ian Anderson showed that he could.
He's been great. There's no question. Ian Anderson is just a revelation for Atlanta. At the same time, as good as he has been, facing this Dodgers lineup is so tough. You know, when you have guys like Betts and Bellinger, and of course, Corey Seager. I mean, we tend to overlook him, I think, going into this postseason, at least, as one of the top bats in the National League, one of the top hitters in that Dodgers lineup. But man, he is reminding everyone how dominant he can be as an offensive player. It's almost Randy Arozarena levels of performance for him. You have to think if the Dodgers make it through, he's probably that leading front runner for NLCS MVP. Freddie Freeman, of course, making a claim on the other side. So A lot of good bats in this series. For Anderson to make it through and to have that great start, he has his hands full with one of the elite offenses in Major League Baseball.
So, what a treat. Our second Game 7 in as many nights in the NLCS will be decided this evening. The Dodgers or the Braves will face Tampa Bay in the World Series, and Sportsnet has the coverage starting at 7:30 Eastern Time with MLB Central postseason.